My Burbank Talks presents another episode of Meet the Candidate, the show where we invite anyone appearing on the Burbank ballot in the 2024 election to join us here and give our listeners a chance to learn about their background and the issues important to them. Now, let's join our podcast.
Hello, everybody. Craig Sherwood here with you once again, and we have a new type of podcast we're doing since it's the election season, and it's just not winter season or spring season coming up. It's the election season, and we have March 5th coming up, which is Super Tuesday. And now California, since they've moved their date up to March, is part of the Super Tuesday festivities. So instead of having our usual June elections, it kind of really meant nothing nationally at that time. But I still don't expect to see any candidates nationally showing up to California to stump the things here. But our first podcast, and I think that you're going to find this one interesting because I am, and I'm sure you're going to have the same questions that I will probably have. So we'll you think of them and I'll ask them. We have with us Manuel Magpapian. How do you do on that name?
You did okay, Magpapian.
Okay. Magpapian.
It's a learning process.
It's a poppin'. And well, kind of on your bio here, you're born here in Los Angeles.
Yep.
Okay. You have a bachelor's in political science,
yep,
the University of California, Santa Barbara, and you have a Juris Doctor in 2016 from Western State College of Law. You became an attorney.
I did, yeah. Unfortunately, no, I'm kidding.
Why are all politicians attorneys?
That's a good question. I think I could just give you what my personal opinion on it is, which is that I think lawyers, for the most part, attorneys are always involved in the law one way or the other. They like policy. They like talking about policy. They like talking about law and whether it's constitutional or not. And I think that on its own kind of creates kind of an interest in politics as well, because at the end of the day, politics is a bunch of politicians kind of coming up with what's the best policy that we could come up with when it comes to, everyday issues, every kind of situation that we deal with on a daily basis. Politicians come up with the law, and the law is what we as attorneys study. So I think it's like a natural match made in heaven for us, I guess.
No, it makes perfect sense. Now, what you're running for, what you're going to be in the ballot for. This is the part that I find interesting. You're running for the Democratic County Central Committee for the LA County Democratic Party for the 44th Assembly District.
It doesn't roll off the tongue very well.
It does not roll off the tongue very. I'm not going for mayor or Congress. I'm going
right.
For which I have never. I got to be honest. I've never heard of it, and we're going to get into that in a second. We're going to get into this whole thing in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But first, let's go back. Let's go back to the. You're a young guy. You're in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
We have I love my dog Dodger here.
Wonderful dog Dodger.
Decided to join us with a squeaky ball. And so you're a young kid in Los Angeles. Where was your first inclination to either go into law or into politics?
Well, politics was more of a thing that I kind of was infatuated with since I was a kid. The one thing that I could tell you is since I was like 8 years old, I remember listening to the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, give an address to the nation, and I don't know, I was just hooked. There was something about politics to me that makes things just really interesting. I don't know about anybody else, but I always found it fascinating how politicians work behind the scenes and how they come up with policy.
Your days back in high school, you were involved in politics there? Did you run for any offices in high school?
Okay, so after high school is when I kind of took a hiatus sort of from politics. The only time that I was really into politics around that time was the 2004 presidential election. I was in 10th grade, I think, 9th or 10th grade. And that was John Kerry versus George W. Bush. And that was the first time that I had like a skin in the game, I thought, because I was a John Kerry supporter and I wanted him to win and I didn't like the Bush administration. And that was one of the early times of me actually having a skin in the game and actually wanting someone to win. I didn't run for anything in high school. I don't know why. I think it's primarily because I was just kind of a naturally shy kid at the time. and I was kind of too shy to run for something. And I don't know what it is, but
back then you make the little posters and put them on the wall.
Right.
But then there's that one day where you have to all go up and make a speech for the whole student body.
Right, and it's a lot of people.
I've been terrified also.
So I thought about it because my friend ran. My really close friend ran for president of the school student body, and I thought about it, but I didn't think I was popular enough to be able to give him a boost up on his ticket. You know what I mean? So I kind of was thinking politically back then on my own terms, and I guess it was just I didn't think I had the high school popularity to boost him into that seat, so I didn't really run for anything, and I never really thought about running for anything until I want to say the last 3 or 4 years, I want to say, is when I started really thinking about it. Until then, I was just infatuated with the subject of politics. I just always have been. Ever since I was a kid, I've always liked it. I've always thought it was interesting reading up on it. It was always the federal politics that was always the most fascinating. But lately, local politics has been just as interesting, if anything, more dramatic than anything that I've seen in the federal stage.
Well, I don't know if it's more dramatic than you're seeing right now.
I guess you're right, because this is what's going on with the presidential race. But in general, whenever you focus on, let's say, Burbank or Glendale, for example, where I'm from, it's really fascinating to see how these players work, and you know them firsthand. It's not like Trump or Biden where you don't know who they are, you never meet them. Like you see these people on a daily basis, and you see how they work behind the scenes on camera and all that stuff. And I find that interesting too. When it comes to law, it was really a very simple decision. I went into community college in Glendale, and I kind of didn't know what to do at the time. I knew I was bad at math, and I knew I was bad at science. So I knew anything math and science related was out. So anything doctor related was probably out too. So I kind of thought, what's next? What is there left for me to do? And I kind of always liked the law as well. So I kind of just naturally gravitated towards pre-law kind of stuff. So that one was a lot easier and quicker of a decision for me.
And once you're into, you got into the law, you're thinking, well, this is a good step into politics then too? Or when did the two start commingling and merge together?
The two started merging for me after I passed the bar exam and after I got a job as an attorney for the first time. I found myself seeing that I had a lot of free time on my hands after going to work. When before I was like studying and reading and doing all the stuff.
What type of law did you practice?
My very first job was mortgage law defense.
Was that exciting?
And it was it was not exciting at all, but it was like very rewarding when you did it correctly. The issue is that it was called the Homeowners Bill of Rights. I think it's still around, although it had a time expiration at the time. It was supposed to help homeowners prevent them from falling into kind of mortgage, falling into what do you call it? Being late on your mortgage, for example, and not losing your home, for example, because of the recession that happened.
Defaulting or something, or
right.
Especially when a single family or maybe a single parent,
right?
Or something. Yeah,
it's a very morally good thing to do because you're basically taking on banks. But at the end of the day, what else ultimately happened was that this law that they passed in California was really weak, and it didn't really have too much teeth to kind of help people who are late on their mortgage payments. So it wasn't as rewarding because 99% of the time they would basically
why that is, don't you?
Lose out on the thing.
Yeah, because the banks pay a lot of money to lawyers and to politicians.
Oh yeah.
Where the poor little homeowner doesn't. So you guess who's going to win those battles?
Exactly.
When it comes to making laws.
Which is why those laws always have like an expiration date to it. It's never set in stone forever. It's going to be like, okay, we'll pass this law for a certain amount of time and then it expires. And after that, I kind of didn't like what I was doing. So I decided to switch to insurance defense kind of area. I was working as an attorney at a boutique law firm that did subrogation, which is basically the individual gets into an accident, let's say, and the insurance company has to pay out a certain amount. They try to get that money back because at the end of the day, it's for their insured to get it back. It's not very cool dinner time talk conversation, but it paid the bills. Basically,
it's necessary though.
Yeah, it's necessary work. Yeah, and after that, I switched to insurance defense again, but for State Farm, in-house counsel for State Farm. and now I'm at in-house counsel for Allstate Insurance.
Okay, so now you went to the dark side and joined the corporate.
I did,
guys.
yeah. I've been corporate now.
Now you're the guy that's evicting some poor little house. Boy, oh boy.
Well,
I mean, you have to have lawyers on both sides. There's no doubt about it.
Right, and insurance defense actually helps those insured as well, because the insured has to pay out money, and if it's not their fault, they should be able to get that money back, which is something that does help the individual out as well. So, in a way, that is what I have been doing, and in a way, it is a more moral thing to do. But during this time, I want to say after my first job, I found myself having a lot of free time on my hands. I didn't know what to do exactly. I guess most people kind of just enjoy not doing much and kind of just sitting back. But I kind of got more involved in the community.
Yeah, it says you became an executive board member for the YWCA Glendale in Pasadena, vice president of the Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation, president of the Southern California Armenian Democrats, and a longtime member and supporter of the Armenian National Committee of America.
Yeah.
So you are involved in a lot of different areas. Now, what about politics? Is this your first run at politics?
It is. It's the first run at politics. It's also the first time I've ever ran a campaign before. I've been involved in campaigns, as phone banking and stuff. Like today, I did some phone banking, for example. But it's the first time I'm actually running a campaign. And I got to be honest, I thought it was going to be... I don't want to sound like I'm, cocky or conceited or anything, but I actually really enjoy doing this. Like it's not as difficult as I thought it was. The difficult part is raising money. Honestly, that's the hard part. I think in my opinion,
I've heard every candidate say that. You watch the circus on,
right.
It's always about making those phone calls, everything else.
It's hard. It's weird. It's a weird experience because I was always raised with a very old school kind of conservative mindset of like, hey, like you handle your own business, all this stuff. But being in politics, you need to ask money from people to see if they would donate to your campaign. And at the end of the day, it's and I keep saying this to people, it's an investment in the community. It's not going into my pocket. You know what I mean? It's going into the campaign so we could get the right people elected into office. And that's what I keep reminding people, because it is a weird thing to do, like asking people to donate money to something. But hopefully it's for a cause that they would want to see succeed.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think it's a tough thing to do. And then what happens when one guy says, okay, here, I'm going to give you $20,000 or something, or $50,000, and they give it to you, and you do well, and they get elected, and they come to you and say, I need something.
Right.
That's gonna be. I think every politician has to go through that, and that's gonna be, that's gonna be a tough day for you when that comes up, and
right.
You have to tell him, I don't know if I support that or not.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's another thing about politics that I haven't seen yet, and hopefully I have the privilege of seeing that firsthand after March 5th. But I mean that is another thing too, because at the end of the day, I think every candidate and politician kind of goes through the same thing, because they all run. I think 99% of them. I don't want to say all, but 99% of them run for a good reason. They want to run because they want to help the community. Someone's running for. You ran for Burbank City Council because you wanted to help the city. Like it wasn't because I want the title or whatever. So I think most people run for a good reason, but once they get in there, I assume they realize there are certain ways of doing things. You need to vote for these things sometimes because you need their favor to vote on something else in the future, even though you originally said you wouldn't have voted for it. Like there's a lot of that stuff going on in general, and I think that's a really difficult thing, but it's also something that I think is inevitable in politics, unfortunately.
Okay, so you're the teacher, I'm the student.
All right.
Okay. And we're going to talk about what you're running for here.
Sure.
Once again, it's the Democratic County Central Committee, which, Democratic County Central. What does that area encompass?
Sure. So the Central Committee is the official governing body of the LA County Democratic Party.
LA County, okay.
Yeah. So this is an LA County Democratic Party election. It's for registered Democrats in various districts, and ours is Assembly District 44.
Okay. So is there a Democratic Central Committee for California Senate District?
It's Assembly districts.
No, but is there one for the Senate District?
I don't believe so.
Or they only use Assembly districts?
They use Assembly districts in LA County.
That's how they decide. Okay.
Yeah.
So it could be a Senate District in a different county then?
If a different county's Democratic Party has it that way, that's probably
Okay, so it could be, but they don't have both in the same county. It's either one or the other.
It's usually by assembly, because assembly is more. It's like the House of Representatives. It's more of a popular population kind of thing.
Okay, right now we have Laura Friedman, who's our assembly person here in the 44th.
Yep.
And then she's running for Congress, of course. Mm-hmm. And our mayor's going for her seat, which
I know.
We'll have him on a podcast very soon. But okay, so what exactly does this committee do? Okay, to start with, this is on the ballot. This is on the Democratic ballot. Ballot. It's too bad we don't have just one ballot everybody gets, because I'm independent. I don't get this on my ballot. So I didn't know about it.
Right.
So why? Okay, so this is on your ballot. So when you see your ballot, you're gonna see it. It's kind of like voting for judges. We see the judges.
I was just gonna go there
all the time, and you go, how do I know what this judge has done or what he hasn't? You tell Alexa to flip the coin for you.
Right, right. You just pick the best sounding name or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel terrible because somebody really wants this position, and you're just. Eeny, meeny, miny, moe. So
well, that's the thing, is that this area of the ballot for those who are registered Democrats, when it comes to Central Committee, depending on which district they're in, the part of the ballot that this is in, I call this area no man's land of the ballot. This is the area that you talked about, where there's a bunch of names, a bunch of seats. You have no idea who's who or what's what. You had no idea you could even vote for judges. Like, there's that a lot, where a lot of people are like, hey, I didn't know we had to vote for judges. Like, oh, that's how it is in California. Yeah. So this is in the no man's land area of the ballot. It's obviously not city council or assembly or all this stuff. And every assembly district in LA County has their own election of it. And you have 7 votes to vote. So there are 7 seats are open.
Okay, there's 7 seats open. Mm-hmm. How many are on the committee altogether? Is it 7?
It's 7 in each assembly district that are elected.
Okay, so it's not like 7 this election and it'll be 8 the next election.
No, it's 7.
It's all 7 are up for re-election.
The only exception I think that I've read about is that if for whatever reason they don't have enough people running and there's only like 5 people running or whatever, then I'm not sure what exactly happens. I assume they get it and then they don't have any, and then the rest are like appointed. Yeah. But yes, it's 7 seats and you have 7 votes. Okay. In this area.
How many people are running right now?
10 total in 44th Assembly District, including me.
Okay.
So good odds, but there is a slate running.
70% chance.
Right, 70% chance, but there is a slate running. And a slate includes 7 individuals who are running together and pooling their resources together to get those 7 seats, which is common.
Are you on that slate?
I'm not.
Oh, you're the outsider.
I'm the outsider.
Okay, I kind of like that, though.
Yeah, I'm the outsider looking in, and honestly, that's how I've always been all my life. I've always kind of been on the outside looking in. I've never really been given this inside look on stuff.
I agree. I don't like I don't like conforming. I'd rather be the A personality and the guy who kind of rocks the boat a little bit. Right. And that's kind of why I'm in the news business, and I do my editorials and stuff. I have an opinion, and I have a platform for it.
Right.
So, so what, okay. So I don't think I would, I never pay attention to those slates, to tell you the truth.
I don't think
I go for the person. I don't even think about these slates. We recommend you vote for these people. I don't care who you recommend.
Yeah.
Who do I want to vote for?
Yeah. Well, the good thing is that for this election, for Central Committee, in my experience and from what I've seen in the past, it's usually there are slates running usually, but the result isn't always all the people from that slate. It's different from ADEMS, which I'm sure you've heard of, which is similar. Which is like a bunch of people running as a slate for a California Democratic Party delegate. That one, the slate usually wins. Why? Because the assembly members usually behind their assembly slate, because they want to make sure that their assembly slate wins. In this situation, there's no real backers on any of the slates that I've seen. It's more so like individuals kind of coming together and putting a slate forward for people to vote for.
Is this a runoff situation, or is this one time only on March 5th?
It's one time March 5th, yeah. And the thing is that a lot of people are still kind of not sure or not 100% knowing that there's an election coming up in March, because a lot of them are like, oh, it's in June or whatever, and they're like, no, it's in March this year, because like they sometimes they don't know that it's like the presidential primaries faster and sooner, and March is around the corner already. So.
There are so many people who don't know so much about so many things.
I know.
They just we are Ross, my partner, and I always say, what, people in Burbank, if they turn their light switch on and their street sweeper comes every week and picks up their trash too, the trash guy, they're happy. They don't care how the sausage is made or how it works.
Right.
So, a lot of people just don't pay attention to details like that,
right. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Now, okay, nice job, great job. You got elected. Here we go. What does this committee do?
Okay.
What do you do?
That's a good question. So, like I indicated, it's the official governing body or legislating arm of the LA County Democratic Party. They vote on procedural stuff, obviously, but they also vote on endorsements of candidates, for example. They determine the direction that the party is going to go in the future. They determine who is the best candidate to be elected for certain offices like mayor or any of these elections that you see right now. They're all going and trying to get the LA County Democratic Party's endorsement, and the Central Committee votes for endorsement as well. So obviously, by determining that, you can kind of put together that the LA County Democratic Party essentially dictates what the future of this party is going to look like. I know a lot of people who aren't registered Democrats, for example, and they all come up and they say like, oh, that's great, but like, I'm not a Democrat, so why should I really care about this kind of party position that I don't even really have a vote for? And I guess my response to that would be like, this is the party's, LA County Democratic Party is probably the most powerful political entity, I think, local party entity in the nation, because they represent about 3 to 4 million registered Democrats, and they have such a strong and big group of individuals, and they have so much power behind them that one endorsement from this organization can dictate the future of an election. So I think it's important, because obviously the Democratic Party is something that we're going to deal with one way or another. If you are a Democrat, great. If you're not, you're going to deal with this party directly or indirectly, because whether you like it or not, LA County is more or less controlled by this party. They are overwhelmingly Democrats, and their candidates essentially get supported and endorsed and elected into various seats across the county. And we want to make sure that this party is going to represent everybody. We want to make sure that this party is going to be...
Well, talk about represent everybody. Is there a Republican counterpart to this?
There is, yeah. But it's not as popular, because obviously there aren't as
and
many.
they vote for that and everything else on their ballots and everything too? Okay, so there's an equivalent.
They have their own, yeah. They have their equivalent. But the LA County Democratic Party is obviously much more powerful.
Yeah. I think in Burbank it's 70% Democratic.
Yeah, it's like that everywhere. I don't have the numbers in Glendale, but Glendale's about the same. And LA County in general is just overwhelmingly Democrat. And whether you like the Democrats or don't like the Democrats or whatever, I mean, this is your chance to hopefully change the Democratic Party, to elect the right people, so we could make sure that the Democratic Party works for everybody, to helps workers, helps small businesses try to stay afloat and succeed. All of these issues are really important, obviously, and we need to make sure that the right people get elected, so we can ensure that this party, whether you are a Democrat or not, represents as many people as possible, so that we could steer this party, and by steering the party, steering the county in the right direction.
Is this a term limit situation when you got 2 terms if you make it on this, or is it not a termed out situation?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if there are term limits on this. I would have to check that and get back to you. But it's like a 4-year term, basically. Okay. The last one was in 2020.
Okay. So once again, nice job. You made it. And what do you want to do? What do you what are you going to bring to this? What's your ideas? I mean, you're not going to just say, okay, let's get around and talk about things. You got to have some visions. You got to have some a purpose. Mm-hmm. Where are you looking at making a difference?
That's also a very good question. Honestly, one of the biggest things that I'm passionate about. Obviously, our county has a lot of problems with it. Obviously, housing is a major issue. Everybody around my age, I'm 35 years old, everybody around my age is looking to get a house and get started, like just like our parents told us was going to be the case. And, they haven't been able to do that. And I think part of the reason is because their leadership on all levels, not just in city council, but also in party positions like the one I'm running for, they've more or less failed us because they haven't really focused on housing as a problem. They haven't focused on what drives prices up. They haven't focused on what they should do and invest in to be able to increase housing so we could drive the price down and increase supply. So obviously housing is an important issue. Homelessness is an important issue. Climate change is an important issue. But the biggest thing for me, I think, is helping small businesses and helping workers. I don't know about you, but when you walk around, let's say Burbank or Glendale, you see these mom and pop shops like we were just talking about, Priscilla's Coffee right around the corner, which is my favorite coffee shop.
They've been around a long time.
It's been a long time. And the thing is that if you go into those coffee shops, you go into those, mom and pop shops, and you ask them about the Democratic Party, for example, just as an experiment, more often than not, I think you're probably going to get a scoff. You're probably going to get eye rolls. Maybe you'll get someone who supports them. But for the most part, when it comes to small businesses, it feels like the party has turned their back on small businesses. It feels like the party has turned their back on workers as well. And I think that one of the biggest things that I'd like to see more of is for the party to be able to create an environment for small businesses to prosper and to be able to do better. And I think that's one thing that just nobody's talking about. No one around in the party, Democratic Party, is talking about how do we help the small businesses? How do we make sure that these mom and pop shops stay up and they don't get closed down by these billion-dollar conglomerates and faceless corporations? How do we help the workers and be able to get a good wage and with good benefits and all this stuff? That's one of the important things that I want to make sure that the party fights for as well, because we've come a long way from where the Democratic Party used to be in Los Angeles and in California in general, but we still have a long way to go to make sure that this party fights for everybody, including the working class and including the small business owners. And that's something that I would like to push more of in this party, because you don't really hear too much about small busineseds in the Democratic Party.
If you, I agree with your statement. Now, I agree with wages too. I think we have wages federally, they're way too low.
Yeah, they are.
As you raise the wages, you're going to raise the cost of living.
Yeah.
And that's going to make it more expensive.
It's going to be,
And you're talking about housing and stuff. And in Burbank, we're dealing with a couple state bills, SB 35, SB 9, that have taken away our control in our city to control how housing, where housing goes, and how, they've actually destroyed our Rancho neighborhood, with these projects. Now they've corrected it since, but damage has still been done. But here's my so they want these projects made. They make us do it, but then they only have a 10% allocation for low-income housing of these projects. So they can come in and they can make 400 huge units, and only 40 have to be low income. So how are they really solving the for low income? They're not doing.
They're not. Yeah.
So I think our legislators are kind of failing us in that regard.
They are, and it's not just legislators; it's the party as well. So that's the thing that I also wanted to hammer home, is that a lot of people, like I grew up in a conservative family, for example. I have a very Republican family. I'm the political black sheep of the family. And the thing is that they always bring this up. And honestly, they're not wrong about that. Like, there are issues with the Democratic Party, and a lot of people don't really.
It's every party. It's not.
It's every party, yeah. But right now, the Democratic Party is the party that's the most dominant in the area. And the thing is that the party itself has a lot of issues that it needs to correct. And I'm hoping to be one of those individuals to be able to at least stir the pot and be able to have people think about what we can do with this party to make sure that it represents everybody, regardless of where they stand about some of these issues. Because my parents have always told me that not every issue is going to be resolved by just one ideology. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be some things that you're going to agree on with the progressives. There are going to be some things you're going to agree on with moderates and so on. Sure. And there needs to be a balance. and there needs to be somewhere in the middle where you're going to be able to create better legislation and create better bills to be able to help the everyday average Californian and Angelino.
Let's get back to your platform, small businesses and stuff. It's great. You want to help small, and I agree. I mean, as a small business, every year I've got to send an $800 check to the state,
Right.
to the franchise tax board, even though I don't owe any taxes.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to send them $800 a year, and they don't do a thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But there's $800 out of which I can't pay writers now.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand you want to help but what can you do? What are specific steps you can do to help these businesses? What kind of policies can you put in place that's going to help small businesses to excel?
Well, the thing is that the LA County Democratic Party and their Central Committee has the ability to adopt resolutions as part of their party platform. So, for instance, we can, whatever situation where there's regulation that doesn't need to be there anymore, we as the Democratic Party in LA County can advocate to have people abolish it or replace it with something else. Because I've always kind of believed that just because we're Democrats doesn't mean we're always going to be in favor of regulation. If there's going to be regulation that doesn't work or doesn't work out anymore, it's perfectly acceptable to get rid of it. So obviously there's a lot of things that needs to be done on the legislative level. But one of the things that I would like to do more of is to provide some kind of more relief and grants towards small businesses so they could be able to stay afloat, be able to pay their wages, their employees' wages, be able to make ends meet to a point where they can continue to thrive and succeed. And I would also like to ensure that Armenian American business owners also are able to get some of these benefits that are provided by the government to minorities and to other minorities as well, because we're considered Caucasian, we don't get as much of the benefits that we would get for small businesses. So I would like to expand that as well. And I think that would help a lot of people who have small businesses who are able to help make their business stay afloat and hopefully eventually prosper.
It's funny because when you're looking at tax relief and stuff, I think most small businesses, kind of in our situation too, we're not paying that much in taxes to start with. We don't make that much money.
Right.
So our tax bill's not very hard.
Right.
Actually $800 more than I pay at any other time.
Right.
So when you're taking, we're going to decrease it by 20%. You're talking about maybe $50 or something, and to me, that's not much of a help.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have to come with policies that are going to, or grants especially, because grants do help. I got a couple grants during COVID. It helped our business.
It really helped a lot of businesses stay afloat.
Yeah, I was able to pay my writers.
Yeah.
We couldn't shut down. News is still the news.
Right.
So
yeah, and news obviously is probably the most important small business in my opinion, because at the end of the day, you're going through the stories, you're trying to make sure that people are informed. These are really important things, and we want to make sure that that all small businesses are able to prosper at the end of the day. And I hope this message gets across, is that I have always believed this to be a progressive issue. I've never believed that conservative viewpoint is the small business, but I've always thought that small businesses and the Democratic Party have always gone hand in hand. At least they should have. It's just, it kind of feels like we've turned our back on them, and we haven't really done as much to help small businesses as much as I would like to see more of. And of course, there's other issues as well that are important as well. Like the climate emergency is also really, really important. Obviously, we're not going to be able to have a planet anymore if we don't actually take care of it. It's incredibly important to leave a habitable planet to our children, our grandchildren. And obviously, I'm also in favor of investing in green technology and energy so we can eventually wean ourselves off of oil. Now, how fast that can happen, that's to be discussed, I suppose, because we do have California laws that have put a time limit on some.
The governor wants to have all electric vehicles sold by another 10 years, I think.
It's interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Here's my point: is we're building a lot more housing and everything else, and all the things we're doing, and everybody's going to have electric cars.
Right.
Okay. I guess that's what it's going to go. So all of a sudden now you've got. How are you going to charge all these cars? Our infrastructure is not set up for that. It's just not set up for that. And all these buildings that have multiple units and people have multiple cars, it's just not set up for that. I think they're overlooking the fact that we're all going to have cars, and nobody's able to drive because we can't plug them in.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how often this issue comes up for me. Actually, I've had a lot of family members who are Republican who have brought this up numerous times, and honestly, I welcome the idea of eventually just everybody having a electric car. Like that sounds great for the environment and everything.
But that's saying your
same
committee needs to
right
your platform look into.
Yeah, but at the same time, what we should look into is more of a balancing act of how long this can take and how we can develop our infrastructure to be able to handle having everybody switch to green, to electric cars, because that is a good question, and it is a good issue that we should all kind of discuss. Is that while I'm sure we all would love for electric cars to happen,
yeah.
I'm in favor of it 100%. And I'm really glad that the governor has passed something like that. But I am kind of wondering how fast can that happen, and can we kind of tinker with the time a little bit to make sure that our infrastructure is up to date?
Because you're looking at several $1,000s for each house to put a charging station in their house, and once again that's more money. And then the part that I think they want to talk about sustainability and all those things. Well, where are all these batteries going to go when they're used up? That's a lot of battery and acid and everything else. And where are all these batteries, that solar things that need charging? All these batteries expire after 10, 15 years. And all of a sudden now we're going to have huge areas of dead batteries, which acid and they're leaking into the groundwater. I mean, that could be a whole new, Superfund situation,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we need to be able to come up with an answer for all of these issues that are going to come up inevitably. And hopefully that's something that we can do at the Central Committee to be able to create this platform so that we can guide policymakers in the right direction, because that is something that we can do. And I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
I think you're being a younger guy and everything else. I think you understand the issues, the coming issues. I think sometimes our politicians have gotten a little out of touch because of their age and the way technology's changed and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having a younger footprint, I know our city council right now is younger overall, and it seems to be all of a sudden, a little more responsive and a little more, they're just not stuffed up anymore.
Yeah, it's Burbank City Council is a good one. Honestly, I come from Glendale, and I like my city council too because it is getting younger. We'll see what happens in this election coming up, but it is in general in the last elections getting younger. So I agree. I think obviously our city council should look like the community. Like it should be people who are of different backgrounds and different age groups, because we need as much representation as possible. And I mean, I think that it's a great thing to see so many young people running for office. Like I've always kind of was hoping and looking forward to that, for a long time. And I'm happy to see that finally happen. And in Burbank, I know a few of them, of the city council members, and they're all good people. So I think you got a good city council here.
So why did you decide to run for that? I mean, number one, like I say, not a very popular office, not a very, well-known office.
Right.
How did you find it, and why did you decide this is where you wanted to run and start your journey?
Well, it's actually a position that I was looking for a while now. I remember at that time when I felt like I had a lot of time on my hands and I was volunteering here and there. I was looking for, getting involved politically as well. And I was told about this position back, I want to say like 2019 or something. And I was told that it's an elected position that Democrats vote for, and it's on the ballot, so you should think about running for it. That was a while ago, and I thought about it, but I never really kind of pulled the trigger. But I've been seeing, I don't know, the way the party's been working, and I've been seeing the way elected officials have been like over the last couple of years or so, and I've been seeing all of these issues that have been plaguing our community for so long. I felt like the time was right to pull the trigger on it and to run for something like this. And it is technically a small election in the sense that now no one really talks about it or knows about it very much. But a lot of people vote for it because it's all of the 44th Assembly District registered Democrats who could vote for it.
It's a large area.
It's a large area. So it's a large area for people to run in as like a no-name nobody, like myself and other people who are running, and it's interesting and it's thought-provoking, because I do want to represent my community as best as I can, and I want to be able to represent my community, and I've always had this feeling that I feel like I should give back to my community more. And I feel like the best way to do that is to get involved politically, in my opinion. It's where change happens. It's where change begins. And it starts from the bottom up. It starts from a grassroots movement that I hope to be able to replicate from people that I've looked up to as mentors in the past. So it's just like something that I've looked at for a while, and I just felt like the time was right to pull the trigger because there's just so many issues going on that I would like to see resolved. And at the end of the day, that's what running for office is, right? Inside you, there's something that kind of tells you, something's not right. No one else is going to do this. You're going to have to do this yourself. And I've always been an outsider. I've always been the kind of guy who nobody, gave too much of a chance to. So not being on a slate is fine. I know the people on the slate, they're all good people too. And it is part of the course of so far my career is to be from the outside looking in and trying to find the way in, I guess.
Well, it's easy to sit on the outside and say, and complain.
Right.
But to actually say, what, I want to do something about it, I respect that position.
Right.
Because that's what kind of I get in the news business a little bit too. I try to make a difference
Right.
when I can.
Right.
And at least point things out and be kind of a watchdog at times and highlight things that should be highlighted.
Right.
So I respect you for wanting to get involved in that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, are these? Would you ever become like a delegate then for the convention too? Is that
I have been?
Oh, you have been.
Yeah, I'm currently a delegate for Laura Friedman.
Okay.
At the California Democratic Convention, who has endorsed my campaign. So I'm really.
Well, what about nationally?
Nationally, I would love to. Yeah, I don't know how they do that nationally. I assume that the members of Congress are able to appoint delegates for certain things. That would be great. But we would, I would have to hope for for Laura Friedman to pull through, which I have a feeling she'll do a good job. We'll see what happens in March. But yeah, I mean, I'm already a California Democratic Convention delegate, and that was actually fun too. I went in early this year. It was in Los Angeles, in downtown LA, and in November it was in Sacramento. And I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. It was like Disneyland for me.
Yeah.
It's political Disneyland for a lot of us. And it's like, and Sacramento is a cool city. Like it's a very quaint little town. And it has like a pretty cool kind of downtown area with a bunch of bars and stuff. So it's just nice to see a bunch of politicians just drinking and talking about stuff. Yeah.
And actually, the thing what's really on their minds.
Yeah. Just get them to start drinking some whiskey.
Okay, so what I do here, and what I decided what to do at the end of all of our podcasts, and hopefully people have gotten to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple minutes.
Okay.
And you know your camera is right here, and can you look at that camera? And I'm going to give you 2, 3, 4 minutes, and you state your case of why somebody should put a check next to your name on that ballot on March 5th. So go ahead. It's all yours.
Well, I wanted to thank you all for having me here today. My name is Manuel Magpapian. I'm running for County Central Committee of the 44th Assembly District. The Democratic Party in LA County right now is an incredibly powerful organization, and it has been there because of so many people working so hard to make it what it is today. But there's a lot of issues plaguing our community that we need to resolve. And it really starts at the party stage because the LA County Democratic Party guides policy. It votes on endorsements. It does all these things that politicians and candidates look for in order to get elected. And we need people in these positions to be able to tackle these issues like housing affordability, homelessness, climate change, all of these big issues that are coming our way. We need to be able to have someone in that position to be able to create the legislation we need in order to make sure that we have representation across all areas of government. I have been endorsed by Laura Friedman and Nick Schultz, Mayor of Burbank. I've been endorsed by the California Young Democrats, along with the Armenian National Committee of America Western Region. You have 7 votes for Central Committee in the 44th Assembly District, I would be honored just to be one of them and to represent my community and to be able to ensure that we can create a Democratic Party in LA County that fights for all of us, that fights for workers' rights, that fights to resolve and fight climate change, and to make sure that we of our generation are able to afford a home and buy a home and live the American dream just like our parents promised that we would. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of hard work. I know that I have a big mountain ahead of me that I need to climb, but I'm looking forward to it, and I can't wait to get out there and talk to more people. And I want to thank you all for being here today. I would be honored to get your vote and earn your vote, really, for Central Committee for the 44th Assembly District.
Very good. A lot of fun, huh?
Yeah.
So, you just sold some people probably.
Hopefully,
and they're going to say, "Hey, I want to donate to his campaign, or I want to help him out, or canvass for him, or something." Mm-hmm. How are people going to get a hold of you, and how do you want them to get a hold of you and all that?
I have a website. It's Magpapian2024.com. That's Magpapian 2024.com. I have a link tree as well. It's linktree/Magpapian2024, and there you'll find all my social media accounts and e-fundraising link for anybody who wants to donate to my campaign, and a way to get a hold of me if you'd like. If you want to just meet with me just to talk to me, that's fine too. I'm open to that. I am in Glendale, so just send me an email or something, and I'm sure I'll get a hold of it and be able to meet with anybody who wants to meet with me. Because at the end of the day, I want to be able to represent everybody, and I know that not everybody is a Democrat listening to this podcast, I'm sure, but I also know that this issue, this seat is going to affect everybody, and that's what I hope to do, to be able to represent everybody as well. So,
well, I'll tell you what, I've learned a lot today. Things I never knew about, and I respect the fact of what you're doing, and thank you for coming on and educating myself. Sure. and our listeners, and I think they'll appreciate it too. What's next for you? What are you doing to campaign right now? What are you out there doing? I
just have a 2-person team in my campaign, so right now we're just focusing on social media, getting the word out via emails. I'm setting up my phone bank and texting stuff right now, and the ballots are coming soon already. They're going to be in the mail in February. I want to say early February, February 5th or so, or something like that. So I'm going to be reaching out to as many people as I can. It's mostly social media, email, texting kind of situation, because this is really only a 2-person team right now. And honestly, like I said, I come from just humble beginnings, sort of, when it comes to politics. I don't have obviously a very well-known name. I don't have all this stuff behind me, and no major corporation, no major money behind me. I'm just an average person from Glendale trying to do the right thing. And I'm hoping that that's the message that people get the most out of all this, is that I'm just an outsider looking in, trying to see if I can stir up some change on the inside, because a lot of people don't know anything about the LA County Democratic Party. They don't know who their representative is. They don't know who all these individuals are that are dictating what the future of this county is going to look like. And it's not their fault. They're not really told too much about this stuff. And I'm hoping to help change that for the better, for everyday individuals. And hopefully that happens. But even if it doesn't, it's a learning process, right? Like, if it happens, great. If I, for whatever reason, don't make it, then it's going to be a learning process to learn and to, remedy for next time. So.
Oh, fantastic. That's Manuel Magpapian.
Mm-hmm. You got it. Now. You got it.
There you go. And he's running for the LA County Democratic Party of the 44th Assembly District. We appreciate you listening. We will be back with more Meet the Candidate things. Our policy is, if you're a candidate and you will be on the Burbank ballot, please let us know, and we will have you in for a podcast and let people hear all about your viewpoints and who you are, and get to know you a little bit, because you kind of want to know who you're voting for, and this is a great way to do it. So it's Craig Sherwood saying thank you very much for watching and listening, and we will talk to you next time.
My Burbank Talks would like to thank all of My Burbank's advertisers for their continued support. Burbank Water and Power, Cusimano Real Estate Group, UME Credit Union, Burbank Chamber of Commerce, Gain Credit Union, Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, Community Chevrolet, Media City Credit Union, UCLA Health, Tequila's Burbank, Logix Credit Union, Hill Street Cafe, Bertain Escobar Wealth Management, and the UPS Store on 3rd Street.